Is diversity key? Multiple strains of fermented foods, multiple strains of prebiotic fibers?
That's actually that actually ties into another question I know you had.
Yeah.
Which was about something that I believe that now I think differently about.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a big one that I wrote about in my latest book, The Gut Smart Protocol. And it has to do with what it takes to create diversity in the gut microbiome. So in functional medicine for years, and I've been practicing functional medicine for over 15 years now, they tell us that the key to diversity is eating the rainbow, like eating a very diverse diet. And I very much believe this. I thought, well, that makes a lot of logical sense. You're getting different nutrients from different plant-based products, you know, like eating pomegranates and berries and dark chocolate and all sorts of greens and onions and leeks and asparagus, all of that stuff. Of course, you want a diverse diet and you want to rotate those foods on a regular basis. And then I got invited to go to Tanzania in 2020 to visit and stay with the Hadza, one of the last hunter-gatherer tribes on the planet.
It's amazing.
And the reason that I was really excited about this is that I had heard a lecture from a guy the year before who had been with the Hadza and presented, like, what's really amazing about them. They have no diabetes, they have no heart disease, they have no high cholesterol, they have no obesity, they don't get cancer. So they're kind of like pristine. You know, they haven't been exposed to antibiotics. So someone had the great idea of collecting stool specimens from the Hadza. And then they used an Italian group of control subjects. So they tried to age match them. The age ranges were from 8 years old all the way to like 60s. And they looked at the stool of the Hadza, doing a PCR analysis versus the stool of the Italian control. And you can imagine, they're eating a Mediterranean diet. It's a pretty varied diet. It's got lots of like legumes and vegetables and fish, and it's one of the most ideal diets on the planet, right? It's one of the most, it's been shown to be one of the healthiest diets.
It's a tough competitor. Yeah.
And meanwhile, the Hadza are eating about 5 different foods. They basically forage for tubers, which are like these root vegetables that are very similar to jicama in a sense. They're like a very watery, crunchy potato.
Yeah.
Wild berries. They go forage for wild honey and they'll eat everything. The honeycomb, the honeybees where they live in Tanzania are actually kind of very unique. They look like tiny little flies. They're not like the way we think of honeybees here that are big. They look like little, like tiny flies. And so they forage for honey, and that makes part of their, and honey, by the way, is enriched with over 200 different bioactive peptides.
Oh, wow.
It's a pretty amazing superfood, honey. And then they eat baobab fruit, which is very high in fiber. And baobab comes from the tree that you've seen it if you watch The Lion King, that very classic tree in Africa that has a very thick trunk and then really wide branches.
Okay, beautiful tree. Yeah, I love that tree.
And then they eat small to large game animals. So because of their historical hunting practices, they have an exemption where they can hunt things like zebras, whereas no one else can hunt a zebra. But if they have the ability to do that. And so they're eating just about 5 different foods and not a lot of color. Even the berries, the wild berries there don't have the bright colors that we associate with berries here. They're kind of like very muted blue, purple, reddish. So they're not eating a rainbow of foods, and yet they have an incredibly diverse gut microbiome. And seeing that made me rethink this whole thing. Like, is it really the rainbow? Is it really all these diverse foods? They're not really getting all those diverse foods, but they do eat an average of like 40 to 50 grams of fiber per day. So they're having way more fiber than the typical Western person who's only having like 10 to 14 grams of fiber every day. And the other thing is that they're getting exposed to the dirt. They don't wash their hands. There's no such thing as hand sanitizer. So they're out in the field. They're getting, when you pick, and I went with them hunting and foraging, and when you pull that root vegetable out of the ground, they eat it like that. So you're probably getting some soil-based organism, maybe some spore-based probiotic organisms that live in the dirt. So they're getting an incredible exposure that is amplifying their microbiome. And they do not have an incredibly diverse diet. So to me, that was a huge reversal. I'm not saying that we need to become hunter-gatherers, but I think it makes us rethink, what is it really that creates diversity of the gut microbiome? I still really strongly believe in fermented foods, which is not really a part of the hunter-gatherer lifestyle. But there is something to learn from there.
Follow for more natural health tips.